talk to Robert Jenrick, a man with a heart and a brain. Very good morning to you, Robert.
Good morning, how are you?
Yeah, very well indeed. Good to see you. Let's talk about first cousins, because who would have thought that in this day and age, in 2024, I'd be asking you, you know, a man that almost ended up being leader of the Conservative Party and is now Shadow Justice Secretary, why on earth are we debating whether marrying your first cousin's a good idea?
Look, absolutely. Frankly, this should have been stamped out long ago, and essentially it had, but it's reared its head again in recent years, partly because of mass migration, importing cultures into our country that are antithetical to British values. We need to stop this, and so I really welcome the bill that was laid before Parliament yesterday by my Conservative colleague Richard Holden. But I was shocked when I asked the Justice Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, whether the Labour government would accept and support it. She didn't do so.
No.
And then later in the day, when Keir Starmer's spokesman was asked, again, silence.
That's the problem,
You
isn't
have
it?
to decide why the Labour Party won't support this, but this needs to be stamped out as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I mean, Lisa Nandy's very keen on talking about culture of silence at the BBC, but there's quite a big culture of silence at the Labour government right now, isn't there? They haven't talked about Lord Ali and his role, quite frankly, in what was going on with Bashar al-Assad back in 2013. Why was he continually visiting him in order to persuade people like Ed Miliband, who was then leader of the opposition, not to vote in favour of bombing him? You know, what was that all about? And what was it all about when he had a Downing Street pass? You know, what happened to Sue Gray? The culture of silence inside this government is quite massive, isn't it?
Well, a week ago, the Prime Minister was asked whether or not he would support a blasphemy law. He didn't say that he would oppose it. Yesterday, he was asked whether he would support this new law to ban cousin marriage. He wouldn't support it. We have to ask why. Is this for party politics? Because there are no good reasons not to support this new law. You know, the medical evidence is overwhelming. Cousin marriage leads to birth defects, significant increase in birth defects and complications. The moral argument is so strong. You know, there are hundreds of people being forced into marriages which are exploitative and ruin lives. And this is simply against basic British values. We thought that these practices had essentially ended in our country, but they have come back in recent years as a result of mass migration. It is a great shame that we're having to have this conversation, but we are, and it's incredibly important that we defend our values and we ban cousin marriage now once and for all.
Yeah. And you've been quite vocal, Robert, recently about crime, in particular mobile phone theft, but also about prisoners being released early without any real regard for what they've done and how safe the rest of the public will be. You've also talked about the possibility of, as I said yesterday, if you can suspend asylum applications from people coming from Syria, you know, surely you can suspend applications from everyone coming from wherever.
Well, I think this is a real test for our asylum system. You've got thousands of people, over 6,500 Syrians who are in our asylum system who put in claims when the Assad regime was still in power. Most, perhaps all, will be on the grounds of persecution by that regime. It doesn't exist anymore. So it's not just now a question of pausing those applications. They should be reviewed and in most cases rejected. And then those people should be deported back to Syria or helped to return on a voluntary arrangement.
Right.
This will be a real test as to whether the system is fair and robust.
I think so. And I mean, a lot of people have said to me, if in fact people say they want to go back to Syria, should we not be kind of assisting them in some way?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think we should now be helping the thousands of people who came here seeking sanctuary to return home to Syria. Of course, we don't know what the situation is going to be like in the months and years ahead in Syria, but those people who fled Syria out of fear of persecution by the Assad regime now clearly do not have to worry about that. Assad is gone, the regime has fallen, and we should be helping those people to return home. That is what asylum is supposed to be about. It's about giving people sanctuary who have a genuine fear of persecution. If that is the case, it's clearly not the matter now. They need to go back home.
Right. Let's talk about the phone theft business. As an item close to my heart. My phone was nicked off me about 5 or 6 weeks ago, just on the street in London, taken out of my hand very expertly by a bloke on a moped who didn't even touch me. He literally just grabbed it and went off with it. 1,000 phones a week. I ended up writing a piece for the Telegraph about it. 1,000 phones a week, apparently, are being stolen.
Look, I'm really worried about this. It's in London, but right across the country, there is now an epidemic of phone theft.
Yeah.
And what we've got to do is bear down on a small number of career criminals who are doing this and making people's lives hell. This is a bigger issue. 50% of all crimes right now are being committed by just 8% of criminals. We've got to get those people, arrest them, get them off our streets and get them into prison. As punishment, yes, but also just a matter of public protection. Give our communities breathing space, because people's lives are being ruined. This is degrading our communities, and it's got to end. So I want to see stronger sentences for these people. You know, there was someone the other day who had nicked 24 phones in an hour whilst riding around London on a bike. He was eventually caught, sentenced to just 2 years in prison. That's not good enough. So I am launching a campaign to have stronger sentences for career criminals, the hyper-prolific offenders who are making the lives of people right across this country hell. Get them off our streets, get them into prison, and slash crime rates as a result.
Yeah. When you were running to be leader, you came very close second to Kemi Badenoch. You and I sat here in this very studio and we talked about reform and all of that. Nick Candy has now decided that he wants to be a player in the reform game, if you like. You know, he's given them a 7-figure donation, apparently. That's going to be quite significant, isn't it, for them?
Well, I know Nick. He's a friend of mine. And I understand more generally why people are attracted to reform, why they are angry and frustrated by some of the things that have happened in our country in recent years, like mass migration. You know, I care passionately about those issues as well. The task for me, for Kemi Badenoch and the Conservative Party right now, is to listen to those people, to repent for mistakes that have been made in the past, and to win back their support over the course of this Parliament. It's not going to be easy. There's a mountain to climb to do that. But that's the task. I want the Conservative Party to be the natural home for all small C Conservatives in this country, people who care about strong borders, reducing migration, being tough on crime, supporting families, strong defences, core Conservative values. I want to bring those people back home in the months and the years to come.
Robert Jenrick, thank you very much indeed. Shadow Justice Secretary there talking